have with us today by video conference Canadian Alliance of British Pensioners, Edwina Melville-Gray, the chair of the board. And we have from Canadian Cattle Association, Tyler Fulton, president by video conference, and Jennifer Babcock, Chief Government and International Affairs Officer. And the British Canadian Chamber of Trade and Commerce, Martin Buckle, Vice President. Welcome to you all. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. We will start with Ms. Melville-Gray for opening statement of up to 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and honourable members of the Standing Committee on International Trade for the opportunity to provide you with testimony today. The Canadian Alliance of British Pensioners support strong trade relations between Canada and the United Kingdom. We welcome UK accession to the CPTPP. We do not oppose Bill C-13, but Canada should not ratify this agreement without first securing equity and reciprocity for the people who built both our countries. More than 100,000 UK state pensioners live in Canada. They worked, contributed, and paid into the UK system for decades. They earned their pensions. Yet, because they chose to retire in Canada, their pensions are frozen forever. If they lived in the USA, the EU, or Turkey, they would receive full annual increases. In Canada, they do not. The only difference is geography. This is discrimination by postal code. For example, Anne Puckridge is 101. A Second World War veteran. She moved to Canada in 2001 to be near family. Her pension has been frozen for 25 years at £72.50, $135 a week. Had she moved to the US, she would receive today £180 or $336 a week. She did everything right, served, contributed, followed the rules, yet has been penalized for choosing Canada. With inflation exceeding 60% since 2001, her purchasing power has collapsed, and Canadian taxpayers now help fill the gap. Through GIS and other income supports, Canada now spends significantly more than $200 million annually supporting British pensioners who should be supported by the UK system they paid into. This is a moral and fiscal issue. Globally, more than 400,000 UK pensioners are frozen. Nearly 90% of frozen pensioners live in each and every one of the CPTPP countries, with most living in Canada and Australia. This reflects outdated post-war arrangements that no longer match modern mobility or modern values. Canada uprates CPP and OAS abroad, including in the UK. The UK does not reciprocate. Successive Canadian governments have raised this issue politely, respectfully, and persistently. Nothing has changed. UK officials admit the policy has not been reviewed in 70 years. Why? Because there has been no leverage until now. Bill C-13 gives Canada leverage. Once ratification occurs, it disappears. Canada is being asked to grant permanent trade privileges, market access, tariff elimination, and investment flows worth billions, while leaving pension injustice untouched. That sends the wrong signal. As Prime Minister Mark Carney warned, middle powers can no longer afford to go along to get along, which is what Canada has been doing on frozen pensions. This is the moment to insist that trade reciprocity includes people, not just products and capital. UK Treasury officials cite uprating costs of £930 million. That assumes full historic equalisation, something the UK has never done in past agreements. Official UK FOI data shows that the real cost of uprating pensions in Canada would be about £13 million, $24 million, for 2027-28. That is a rounding error on a UK pension budget of £146 billion per annum. The barrier is not money, it is political will. We are not asking to rewrite the CPTPP. We are not asking to block accession. We are asking for a responsible pause. A pause to secure a formal UK commitment to amend the reciprocal social security agreement to include annual uprating. That is not obstruction, it is good governance. It is standing up for residents of Canada. It protects Canadian taxpayers and it strengthens Canada's credibility. We therefore ask this committee to recommend, first, that Bill C-13 not proceed until Canada obtains a formal UK commitment to enter negotiations on annual uprating for UK state pensioners residing in Canada. Second, the ESDC and Global Affairs Canada actively pursue a modernized bilateral reciprocal social security agreement with the UK that explicitly provides for annual pension uprating. Trade access should not move forward on a one-way basis while pension justice remains frozen. After 70 years, it is time for equity and reciprocity. And this is the moment, as Mark Carney said, to take the sign out of the window and for Canada to act. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Fulton,
Very
please.
grateful to be here. I want to thank all of the witnesses for their presentations. Ms. Melville-Gray, I'd like to thank you for your presentation about the 127,000 Canadians from the UK who have a UK state pension that the UK refuses to index to inflation. As you know, almost 3,000 of the people in that community live in my community. And I'm wondering if you could just share with us in practical terms what a frozen pension means for a senior living on a fixed income in Canada, especially in the context of rising costs for housing, food, and healthcare.
Well, it means that they start to reduce the amount of food they eat. They cannot support themselves, and they start calling on the Canadian healthcare system and support system for other costs and so on. We know that about 50% of if you've been here for 20 or 30 years, you're down about 50% of the income that you should be getting. And you can't survive on that kind of funding in this current inflationary increase. So people split pills, they don't take their medications, they go to food banks. It's really a tragedy.
Thank you. And many of these pensioners paid into the UK system for decades. How do they see, or how does your organization see the fairness of having their pension value permanently frozen simply because they chose to retire in Canada?
Well, it's a current issue in terms of people who come here often to be with their families, for grandchildren. You know, they come to support their kids and their grandkids. But it's also a future issue. Listening to the other members today, why would somebody come from the UK when they've worked, let's say they've worked for 30 years, 20 years in the UK, they've paid in, they come here at the peak of their career to find out that if they chose to stay here, they will not be able to get an increase in their pension every year. We at least would expect to be able to keep up with the inflationary amounts, and that doesn't happen.
As you explained, this is a problem that is unique to some countries and not others. Have you ever been given a justification for why the UK provides annual increases in some countries but not in others?
The UK states that it's because they do not have a reciprocal social security agreement. We actually do have a reciprocal social security agreement, but it does not include pensions from the UK to Canada. It's simply a couple of paragraphs that are missing. It's a post-war thing that started with mostly Commonwealth countries. 50 Commonwealth countries are frozen. Every single one of the CPTPP countries are frozen. And it's an anomaly. So they pay 6 out of 10 overseas pensioners. They do not increase the annual amount for 4 out of 10 overseas pensioners.
Could the government of Canada be playing in advocating for our frozen British pensioners?
We need the government to advocate on our behalf because we are pushed aside by the UK because they feel we're far away. They don't need to deal with us. They've actually stated as recently as yesterday that their policy is to spend any pension money on UK pensioners, which would make sense if they weren't paying all of the ones in Europe and the USA specifically, as well as many other countries. So it's a discriminatory policy. We need Canada to stand up for us, to help us, to bring the UK to the table, because all we get are polite refusals. And when Canada asks the question as well, it's politely pushed away. It's time for Canada to take a stand.
Well, and this committee is here to advise the government of Canada in that regard. So if you could recommend, is there any sort of concrete action that this committee should consider taking to support you in your quest?
We would ask that you take a pause and require that as I put in my opening remarks, that you require that the government actually come to the table to negotiate a reciprocal social security agreement that is truly two-way, reciprocal. People need to be treated fairly and equally.
And just in the few seconds that I have left, I want to turn to Mr. Buckle. First of all,
Merci.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mackenzie, for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Melville Gray, I would just like to ask you if you have any awareness of whether or not our Prime Minister Carney, has brought the issue respecting pensioners up. We do understand he has a close relationship with the British Prime Minister. Is there anything happening there that you're aware of?
Our understanding is not at present. Of course, it's only been a year that he has been in his position as Prime Minister, and there's been many things happening in the world. We have asked that on the next visit that's coming up, and also with the Australian Prime Minister, that he would engage with the Australian Prime Minister and perhaps jointly ask Mr. Starmer to assist.
Have you received a positive response to that? Do you expect that to happen, or is that simply a request that's outstanding?
That's our request. We haven't received a response as such on that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Mr. Fulton, or perhaps Ms. Babcock,